Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, too, you can listen and watch any of our other 5 live shows throughout the week. If you happen to miss them, you can go back and watch them and listen to them at your own leisure. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can follow them on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, find Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You want to catch the audio version of this show, Second City Sports, you can do so by subscribing to our podcast at WARR Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type this in your search engine boxes on those podcast platforms. You ready? WARR on Anchor. And you can follow WARR Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. You have any definite opinions on any of our topics that we're going to cover on today's show during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio show? You can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something stupid, or as you young folks will say, act ignorant, I've given Lakeena full boat to give you fools to build and be a boot.
Bye-bye.
I love when she says that. Lakeena, let's start off this show on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago by discussing Chicago baseball. It was a bad weekend for both our teams in town. Let's start off with the hottest story in baseball, perhaps. The Chicago White Sox. Fate has dealt them another blow. Michael Kopech, who was the starter for yesterday's game, went out the game after slipping on the mound, not once, but twice after 13 pitches. Tried to throw a pitch to get back into the ball game, but he threw the baseball on the ground and he left the game. It was reported he has right knee soreness. He could possibly make his start next Sunday night at Houston on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, which could be another disaster, but we'll discuss later. Another crushing blow. Tony LaRussa was booed again on Saturday afternoon. Fire Tony chants were heard throughout behind the White Sox dugout and spread it throughout the ballpark for 2 minutes like wildfire. The White Sox are currently 27-31, 4 games under 500 with an important 3-game series at Detroit. Has the ship sinking deeper for the White Sox, or could the season be saved? Lakeena, I'll let you have the floor first.
Yeah, I'm going to go jump right in here because I know you're going to go into a long tangent. I don't want to, jump in and not have a chance to talk. So as far as the White Sox are concerned, look, if you lose to a Texas team, you could have easily been swept. And then you have another injury of Michael Kopech. Now, it looks like it doesn't look as serious, but, here goes another blow for the White Sox. Then you got the fire, LaRussa chants and everything else. And it's just, everything is just starting to go haywire. You can blame the injuries, fine, but this team, as we've seen some people say on Twitter, this core is starting to show that it's not good enough. And you hate to say that, but maybe that's the case. We're going into mid-June. You can't play the whole, it's because of injuries. Yeah, some of it is injuries, but a lot of it is also, too, because this core is not good enough. Guys are not producing. Makata got hurt again. And it's sort of one of those things where, Jake Berger's keeping you guys afloat. Look, you guys would probably be in a worse spot than you are now if Jake Berger hadn't been clutch, with the hitting and such. But it still didn't end up not being enough for them. They lose in extras those last couple of games against the Rangers in extra innings. You play the Detroit team that's actually, sort of in the same boat as the Rangers. They're good. They're not great. They've got some good young core stars. And of course, you got Melky Cabrera too, who's still producing. The White Sox at this point, I know Busso only during the Sunday Night Baseball game against, with the Mets and the Angels last night saying that, saying that we already know about, Jerry Reiser wanted to, because he owed Tony LaRussa, because he felt bad about what happened 35 years ago, blah, blah, blah. But, again, you get to a point where maybe it's it's the core, maybe it's LaRussa. The game is passing by. It's all those things sort of rolled up into one. And at this point, you know, some things got to come to a head here. And I don't think Lewis is not going to get fired. I know, some White Sox fans will say, "Hey, look, let's wait till everybody gets back healthy." Okay, well, this team wasn't playing well when they were healthy, so they weren't hitting, and the pitching and the comedy of the errors, especially those last couple of games against the Rangers this past weekend. So it's sort of like something's got to give here, and I feel like I don't know what it is, but something just has to come to a head here.
You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live and in living color. Second City Sports. Sid Lakeena here with you, discussing the Chicago White Sox. Lakeena, as many of you well know, if you follow me on the Twitter, I'm a season ticket holder. I was there for both games over the weekend. I want to start out with Saturday's game. Was it the best played? No, but the Sox somehow got out to a 5-0 lead. They were trying to build momentum off of what happened on Friday night. Scoring 5 runs in the 8th inning to take that game, which turned out to be the only game of that series. But in the bottom of that 10th inning there on Saturday, one of the fans I was talking to behind me, he said, "Do I hear some type of fire LaRussa chants?" Because I wasn't paying attention. It was a mound visit, so I was looking around, and just watching how the fans reacted. I thought they were saying "blank Tony LaRussa," in which I wouldn't have minded either, but but they were chanting "Fire Tony," and that cheer spread it throughout the ballpark like wildfire. It only lasted about another minute or two, but the fans' voices I've heard, I now wait till I got home to catch the replay, and you could tell that Steve Stone and Jason Benetti on the NBC Sports Chicago broadcast. Steve Stone said the best of 30,000+ fans, they were very unhappy that they couldn't hide the message of what the White Sox fans were saying. And of course, Dave Raymond, the TV voice of the Texas Rangers, said, "Wow, they were even shocked by this." Of course, we're not going to go through what Tony LaRussa did with against the Dodgers. We covered it on our last show on Friday, but it has not been a good week for Mr. LaRussa. It has not been a great season for him. With that being said, Lakeena, something must be done. Let's be realistic. They're not going to fire him. And I saw this tweet from a couple people last night. The Atlanta Braves were on the same course last year. Of course, they made some deals at the deadline, and of course, Robert Acuna Jr. was injured too. That was part of it. But they made some deals at the deadline. They took off and they won the whole thing. Look, I've been saying this for weeks. You cannot depend on a 2007 Colorado Rockies type run to get into the playoffs. You can't depend on what the Braves did last year. Okay, I know there's some templates there, and someone else said too that the Washington Nationals in 2019, they were in 19-30 before they won it all in 2019 over the Houston Astros. The White Sox, they're a good 6-7 game winning streak away from getting back in the scene. The Minnesota Twins are 6 games ahead. I think that's the most they've been ahead of the White Sox all season long. But as we said before, Minnesota's not a great team. I don't see them dominating this division, but the White Sox don't take care of their business. What I just said will be forgotten or not.
Yeah, and I see our buddy Hoodie from ESPN 1000.
Shout out Jay Hood.
Yeah, seeing that the team is just banged up and the depth isn't very good. It's disappointing so far. I mean, okay, yeah, the team's banged up, but how many times can you use that excuse though? At this point, it's sort of comical that you can say, "Oh well, it's injuries." It's got we've seen teams still produce and still show the depth that hey, you can overcome those things. But again, this team is showing, at least so far, that look, they were struggling even before all these injuries. So it's definitely one of those days. Yeah, okay, yeah, the Twins, they're not going to run away for the division. They struggled. They had their struggles over the weekend. So the Guardians as well, when now going to be competing against, they've someone ahead of them. But yeah, I mean, look, okay, yeah, 8 or 9 game winning streaks. Okay, great. When is that going to happen? And close it before, because I want to get to all the rest of stuff in baseball. I don't want to go too in depth into this, but I feel like at this point, okay, what's going to be the thing here that turns this team around? You thought that maybe playing the Rangers would probably sweep. They ended up losing the series and everything else. Detroit, I know it's been kind of a house of horrors for them so far this year up there. Maybe that could turn something, but who knows? But something's got to happen here, because if not, look, we're going, the trade deadline is going to be here before you know it. And I don't know, Rick, they don't have a lot of depth in the farm system to, get rid of guys, and who you're going to need to take guys. So at this point, I just, again, okay, you don't want to say that they don't have a shot because they do, but
Mhm.
again, it isn't. It's getting tiresome at this point.
Yeah, winning will cure most of these things, right? Like and that's what the Sox need to do. They should need to start winning some games in a row, taking series, and start beating the teams within your division. And it starts tonight at Detroit. I know Lance Lynn is supposed to make his season debut tonight. Dylan Cease tomorrow, and I don't know who's going to pitch on Wednesday in that getaway game of the afternoon. But the White Sox have a golden opportunity to take 3 games here for Detroit before you head to Houston for over the weekend. So the White Sox can make up hay here. Remember last year, Lakeena, we talked about the depth of the White Sox team. We They did the job this year. It's not just the depth, but everybody after that 6-2 start has been pressing, and that's another thing that's been not been talked about as much. This team is pressing. You can get back in the game by hitting a home run when you down 5-0. It only counts for 1 run. This team has got men on base, but they just can't get them across home play on a consistent basis. That's what needs to change. As we said, the starting pitching has been good. The bullpen's been shaky here as of late, but got to start scoring runs consistently across the plate. They start to do that this weekend, but you just can't keep other teams off the scoreboard.
And the errors too. That's also been a
Mm-hmm.
killer for them as well. So we'll get to that, but yeah, I want to get to the Cubs for a second. The Cubs have now lost 6 in a row. They were swept by the Yankees. Batting practice those last couple of games, for the
You
Yankees
think?
against the Cubs. I think Aaron Judge had about 10 home runs. No, I'm kidding. He had like 3. Matt Carpenter, had a field day in this series, against the Cubs, and 6 hits with the uh, and 5 of those have been home runs. It was like they had like 5 home runs yesterday, I think. So it's just like I know. I mean, I've heard like some Cubs fans are sort of, I don't know how our buddy Jason Pfeiffer feels about it, but I'm wondering, do you what can be done? I mean, look, you hear Rossi's comments. I don't think he's not the problem. The talent just isn't there. I mean, you got you got Ian Happ, you got Contreras is still there. Of course, Hayward actually had a home run during the series. You got Christopher Morel. I know Seiya Suzuki's been up and down with
Mm-hmm.
injuries and such, among others. Nico Horner and such. But yeah, I mean, look, I don't know. I think ownership, needs to. I know some people are saying maybe ownership needs to take some of the blame here for not spending the money. But I don't want, like I said, I don't want to get too involved into the Cubs because there were so many other good things that happened over the
Mm-hmm.
weekend. But it's like, I don't know. It's like this could be a long like rebuild, if you will. And I don't even know what direct. I think Cubs fans don't know what direction they're going to go with the rebuild either, what quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote. So
Yeah, let's be honest here. We talked about this all year, Lakeena. This is a rebuild, even though GM Jay Hoyer won't tell you Cubs fans that. Let's be real. This is a rebuild, and we talked about this before as well. Which players will be on this team in the next 2 to 3 years when this Cubs team are starting to contend? We don't know who they are. We might know a couple of people, like you mentioned, Nico Horner, and some of the other couple of young guys, possibly Ian Happ, but Frank Schwindel, Patrick Wisdom, they weren't heard from as far as their bats were concerned in this series over the weekend in New York. And we saw the difference between a team that's destined to win the World Series and a team that is rebuilding. That's the only thing I take away from this series, Lakeena. Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Matt Carpenter, the former St. Louis Cardinal, he had 2 home runs and 7 RBI yesterday. The Yankees bats are good, but their starting pitchers was carried them through. Gary Cole, who did not pitch in this series against the Cubs. You saw what Jordan Montgomery did on Saturday night. Nestor Cortez is having a good year, possibly your American League starting the All-Star game. So the Yankees are all around are a very good team. They are putting it together right now. The Cubs are still trying to find themselves.
yeah, and it's definitely you're seeing it at this point, and I don't know what to tell Cubs fans. I mean, look, you want to kind of be right there in the cusp of 500 by the end of the season, but at this point, you saw this series, the haves and the have-nots.
Mm-hmm.
You got the
Yes.
Yankees, with all their hitting, powerful hitting, and yeah, their pitch has been a little suspect, but playing the Cubs can heal that wound there, and also to the Cubs, you just don't know where they're gonna go. So, and going back to the White Sox for 1 second, I know Hoodie said that they've had their starting lineup attacked 0 times.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I mean, but the problem is that LaRussa has touted out Sunday lineups with mostly minor league guys. So in that instance, sort of, yeah, they've had them attack, but they're not producing. There's no cohesiveness. So I don't know, but so what caught your eye this weekend in MLB?
The San Francisco Giants sweeping away the hated rival Los Angeles Dodgers. I had the chance to check out some of the games over the weekend, in particular the Saturday game on Fox, while most of the country was intoxicated with that Yankees throbbing of the Cubs. Yours truly watched the Dodgers and the Giants in its entirety. Shout out to Adam Amin, Bulls TV voice. He's the second baseball voice over there on Fox. It was him, AJ Persinski, and Eric Karras, a former Dodger and former Cub, by the way, 03. So we said before, before the season started, the San Francisco Giants were going to sneak up on people. It looks like they finally start to turn their season around a little bit. You saw how they won last year with clutch hitting and starting pitching. That was the formula they used this weekend to beat the Dodgers. Now, if you're a Dodgers fan, should you be concerned? Yes, but it's not time to jump off the cliff. The Dodgers are still a good team, but the San Francisco Giants just played better. They executed better over the weekend. That's thus completing the 3-game sweep at home.
Yeah, this is the third time the third time this season that they were shut out. They were they were down they lost 2-0 in that rubber match on Sunday, and they were shut out 5 times last season. And this is already their third. So I'm not too worried. I think Dodgers fans are already freaking out over nothing, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the Giants need this series more than the Dodgers did. So, and the Padres lost 2 of their 3 in their series over the weekend. So I think, look, you're still in first place, so not too worried about that. Now Atlanta, they've won 11 in a row, and I mean, that's tied with the Astros and the Yankees for the longest win streak by any team this year. And also, too, Adam Duvall recorded his 11th career multi-home run game, his first of the season. So it's definitely, the Rays are starting to kind of get together a little bit. Now, the only problem is that the Mets have became the first team to reach 40 this year. And this is the quickest they've done that in their history after the 86 Mets, who got to 40 games, just as long, less of the time. And they actually, of course, went on to win the World Series. So, again, you could take that, however you will, in their 56th game of the year. So what do you think about this weekend with the Mets and such? 52nd game for the 62nd game, I should say, for the Mets, reaching the 40, becoming reaching their 40 win mark.
Congratulations to the Mets. As we said, Lakeena, they've been the next best team next to the Yankees all year in Major League Baseball. They're doing something the White Sox can't do, is beat teams with lowly records. And so we talked about this before, Lakeena. You can't rely on just one player to carry your team. It's been a total team effort. I know DeGrom is still injured. He's supposed to be back soon. And you also had the other pitcher go down, Max Scherzer, who started off strong, but he got injured too. But there's been other guys that have been picking it up. Pete Alonso, the Panda Bears, one of the league leaders in RBIs. So the Mets still have the offense. Also, Francisco Lindor, it looks like he's settled in at second base up there in New York. So Buck Showalter has really made a huge difference with that team. Remember last year, Lakeena, we were talking about them perhaps making the playoffs. So we saw what happened after that Javi Baez trade last year. The things went downhill along with the injuries to Jacob deGrom. So this year, they suffered some minor setbacks, but that team has kept on rolling. You have to credit, first of all, manager Buck Showalter for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see if the Mets can keep it up. I mean, we've seen, sometimes they go into a hot start and then they sort of sink. So, souffle, and plus, they've won 11 in a row too. So they've been able to kind of keep Atlanta at bay, at least so far. The Phillies, their 10-game win streak, was over. And of course, they get shut out. Well, not shut out, but they get throttled by the Diamondbacks of all teams. So I guess someone said that's actually sort of a microcosm of the Phillies season. So, but look, they had a nice run, and hopefully they can kind of sort of keep it up and still be right there for at least a wild card, if not for the AL East.
Yeah, staying with the American League, the Cleveland Guardians take 3 out of 4 from Oakland. And that's what good teams are supposed to do against bad teams, unlike the White Sox. You take advantage of a lowly opponent. That's what Cleveland did at home over the weekend. Also, to the Toronto Blue Jays, they mashed the Detroit Tigers, winning that series 2-1 in Motown. But the Houston Astros, if you're an Astros fan, I wouldn't worry. He had a rare bad showing at home, losing 2 out of 3 to the Miami Marlins. But that AL West, unless Seattle makes a big move, the AL West title is Houston's. We said coming into the season it would take a slight step back, by not re-signing Carlos Correa, but that's still a very good Houston team, and they're showing that so far this season, despite the minor hiccup over the weekend.
Yeah, I think Houston will be fine. I mean,
Yeah.
Toronto's a good team. Toronto's a good team, so I'm not too worried. I know I know Astros fans were a little bit antsy because they lost, but look, people forget how good of a team Toronto is. So it's not Toronto, I should say. Who was the Houston played? I forgot.
The Marlins.
Who?
The Marlins.
The Marlins, yeah. I mean, the Marlins, they got some decent players, so it's not like, I know they've had Chaz Chisholm is one of really one of the young players on that squad. So yeah, it's fine. So I wouldn't worry too much if you're the Astros, if you're an Astros fan. So don't worry about that. Real quick, I know we're up against it. Some of the games for this series coming up.
Oh, one more team to keep your eye on in the American League real quick. The Tampa Bay Rays, even though they had a hiccup over Minnesota over the weekend, they lost 2 or 3. I think Tampa Bay will still be right there for a playoff spot in the AL, in a competitive AL East.
I think they're like 3 teams, and Toronto, Tampa. You got to think Boston might still have a shot. So yeah. It's like I said, it's going to be one of those, especially with 3 wild card teams this year. There's definitely all 3 of them might, or at least 2 might come from that division. So
that's probably what's going to end up happening.
Atlanta and Washington, with this going to the games, the series that are coming up this week. Miami and Philadelphia. Philadelphia will try and get back on, after losing, getting their 10-game win streak snapped by the Diamondbacks. Baltimore and Toronto. That should be an interesting series. White Sox start their series against Detroit. We'll see how they do. Pittsburgh and St. Louis. That should be an interesting one as well in the NL Central. Houston and Texas. Battle of Texas, always fun when those 2 teams play each other. The Cubs start their series against the Padres. They actually won 2 out of 3 against the Padres last time they were at Wrigley's. The last time they played over out in San Diego. So, we kind of take that for what it's worth. Cincinnati and Arizona, Kansas City and San Fran, and also to Minnesota as they start their West Coast trip. They started against Seattle.
Yes, and other series will be starting this week. Starting tomorrow, Tampa Bay at the New York Yankees. That'll be the Tuesday highlight game on TBS that starts at 6:05 p.m. Other series that starts tomorrow, we have Milwaukee at New York to take on the Mets, Oakland at Boston, and we'll have Cleveland traveling to Colorado to take on the Rockies. And the battle of the Orange County series, the interleague play between the Angels and the LA Dodgers.
That should be a fun. Be a fun one too. That's always interesting.
A quick 2-game series for those 2 teams.
Yeah. So even though that should be an interesting one between those 2 teams, actually that first game will be at 9:10 tomorrow on TBS. That's a later game, and also to the Rays and the Yankees. The first game of that TBS Tuesday doubleheader. That's your doubleheader, and those are your games coming up this week. Some really good ones here in the MLB. As we take a break, we got a lot to do still on Second City Sports. The Stanley Cup final is set. Also, a pivotal Game 5 coming up tonight. Our buddy Josh Hicks from WARR Media will be joining us at the preview that game. Rory, gets back into the winner's circle in Canada and warming up for the U.S. Open, and so much more coming up. A lot to do still, and we're gonna bring it to you coming up next. And that's pretty much about it. That's how we do it here on Second City Sports. And we're going to, because I know some people are kind of wondering, this is what we do here. So Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we will be right back. Along with Sid, I'm Lakeena. We're going to talk some NBA and NHL final coming up right after this.
At a time when the news seems as subjective as the partisan politics dividing this country, independent professional journalism has become a resource people need to get the honest and accurate information for their lives. That's why I created JQReports.com. As a born and raised Chicagoan, I know this city better than anyone. So my investigative stories are all original, and they'll go deeper to expose the truth by using information obtained from public information databases and in-depth interviews with the movers and shakers. My feature stories will introduce you to people and businesses who are changing the world, not just Chicago. My missing person stories will spotlight those who you don't hear about in the mainstream media, who are often overlooked. If you want to hear my personal views on things around the world, check out my blog site, which is based off of factual information on my life experiences. There's also past episodes of my weekly sports podcast show, What's Up Cuz, that I host with my real-life cousin, Lance Irvin. So if you're looking for all this information and more, check out jcoinreports.com and follow me on Twitter at jcoin.
Welcome back to Second City Sports. We're live and in living color on the Monday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakeena. If you want to follow us on social media, you can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
Follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan McGee on the IG.
We have less than 90 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, let's get into some NBA Finals talk. Game 5 is tonight from San Francisco at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on ABC. The best of 7 series is tied up at 2 games apiece. The Golden State Warriors, as we told you on Friday, at least yours surely did. They got the victory over the Boston Celtics in Beantown, 107-97. Steph Curry exploded for 43 points, had a big second half. Lakeena, it was a tight game all the way, but the Boston Celtics, after a Marcus Smart, RIP Tom Hudson, after a Marcus Smart three-pointer with over 5 minutes left to go, the Celtics only scored 3 points the rest of the way. The Warriors took over down the stretch, thus coming out with a big victory on the road.
Yeah, and I think they needed that desperately. And look, if you're a Warriors fan, this is sort of what you want. They're now tied for most finals wins by an all NBA trio. Of course, that 19 with, of course, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green. They're now tied with Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, and Manu Ginobili. They're both at 19. Both those trios are at 19 right now. And as we've been saying, this whole series long, no one's gonna run away with this series. No one got swept, and of course, with it being a travel day, they got the extra day off. So remember the 2-2-1-1-1 format.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, of course, Steph, having 43 points. I mean, I think he's just the second guy to do that. Over the age of 35. Yeah, the second oldest to do that at 34 and 88. At the time, 88 days. Of course, a couple of days have been added. Also to only trailing LeBron, who did it, who averaged had 40 and 10 during the bubble final, if people are calling it that, back in 2020. So Steph is still doing it at a high level at his age. Now he also had but then again he had help. Klay Thompson hit some big shots.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Wiggins had hit some big shots. Jordan Poole, and also defensively, they were actually able to kind of stifle the Celtics defensively against number one. The Celtics are supposed to be number one defense in the NBA. The fact that they were able to kind of combat all that and shooting 35% from 3 and getting those, good looks and such, and Steph shooting from, Brookline, where the US Open is going to be this weekend. So, I think he showed you that, look, he's still one of the top players, in the NBA, especially during the playoffs. I think the last person to do that, to score 40 plus against a number one, rated defense, I think it was Elgin Baylor, like way back when with the Lakers, back in like the early 70s, I think. So it's been a while now. As for the Celtics, I mean, look, you got contributions from, Tatum had 23, Jaylen Brown had 21. I know Marcus Smart had 18. Derek White, had 16 off the bench, but they need more. Al Horford, he just kind of showed a little bit of fountain of youth. He only had 8 points on Friday's game. Robert Williams was the third. You got to wonder, is he starting to kind of get a little bit fatigue and such? So, and also too, like more guys off the bench. Udoka did not play a lot of his guys off the bench, so that played a factor as well. So it's definitely sort of like, this is a pivotal game 5. Now, I don't necessarily know whoever wins game 5 tonight will end up taking control of the series, but it'll give you that momentum going into trying to clinch it on Thursday.
Yeah, just a couple of the tidbits and nuggets from game 4. You mentioned Andrew Wiggins earlier. He had 17 points to go along with 16 rebounds. He had a couple of offensive rebounds and putbacks late in the game for the Warriors to put it away. So I thought that was key there. Not too many people are talking about. We talked about him on our last couple of shows, Lakeena, as him accepted the challenge from assistant head coach Mike Brown to step up defensively in key spots this year. He's done that, but he brought it in game 4 on Friday with the 17 and 16. I want to talk about Draymond Green, Lakeena. Ever since game 2, even though the Warriors won that game, Draymond's been affected by the officials. We all know that he toes the line. He brings that extra edge. He's an agitator, and he's someone. If he's on your team, you like him. If you're playing against him, you hate him. But he's really been affected these last couple of games. He only had 9 rebounds in 33 minutes on Friday night. Only scored 2 points. But Steve Kerr at times has benched Draymond Green. Let's see if Draymond Green can get the message and not do anything stupid to cost his team a ball game. I'm not saying it was Draymond Green's fault that they lost game 3, but game 4, you could tell he was basically a non-factor. If it wasn't really for Steph Curry, 43 points, and Klay Thompson's clutch shots down the stretch, the Warriors would be down 3-1 right now.
Yeah, and I think that was definitely the key, trying to maybe perhaps that's why, thank God for Steph in his performance with 43 points. The fact that, yes, the Warriors could easily be down 3-1, but again, the Celtics missed a lot of open looks too, and it's definitely one of those things where they need more depth off the bench. And I think Grant Williams and Derek White's actually been very consistent as production. Peyton Pritchard, I think he only had 1 point, but had a turnover. But he needs to play his guys. I don't know if it's because he doesn't trust his bench guys, or that maybe he feels like with the way the Warriors play defense, I think they need to get the shooters to do some of the guard them as well. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but I feel like at this juncture is really this is all gonna depend on who produces and such, both the the role players and the stars. Draymond has to step up. He didn't step up again. Now you can blame the officiating and whatnot, but you still got to produce somehow, and you have to. And also too, I mean, we'll see how, especially now it's going to be back in the Bay Area tonight, who's going to be kind of like that. Will we see that Draymond that we saw in the previous championship teams with the Warriors and such? Will Gary Payton II, who's starting to kind of find his rhythm a little bit, will he have a breakout game tonight? So there's still a lot of things can happen. And like I said before, I don't know if like whoever wins game 5 tonight will get the sort of have that momentum as they try to clinch it on Thursday, but this will definitely kind of get you right there into that advantage.
You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you, talking NBA Finals. Game 5 is tonight at 8:00 p.m. Central Standard Time on ABC. The game will take place in San Francisco between the Golden State Warriors and Boston Celtics. Series tied at 2 games apiece. Coming up at the top of next hour, our guy Joshua M. Hicks, a recent graduate from DePaul University, and he works with us at WARR Media. He's going to join us to give his thoughts about the series thus far, and he's going to give his thoughts, his preview on Game 5 action that's going to take place tonight. Lakeena, I'll give you a number. You ready? As we talk about the Boston Celtics, 65. 65 is the total points that Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart must score for the Celtics to win. Now, I know many experts I was listening to this morning has picked the Celtics to win tonight. And it's a good reason why I believe they're 7-0 after a loss, and it's been a seesaw battle throughout this series. The Celtics win the first game, the Warriors win the second game. The Celtics win the third game, the Warriors win game number 4. And so many experts expect the Boston Celtics to pick it up tonight. Now, do the Celtics have confidence? Yes, they do. But it seems like game 1 has been a long time, and since the Warriors have picked it up, it looks like the Boston Celtics have been chasing a little bit, despite what happened on Friday in game 4. The Celtics just couldn't close it out. Now you talk about Jason Tatum, and the first time he's been 3 games in a row since he's had 20 plus points after starting out horrendous in game 1. He's only shooting barely over 34% for the series. That must improve tonight.
Yeah, it really did. Yeah, it has to, because that's not especially if, like I said, everyone has to step up. People, I think Clay needs to step up a little bit more. I think especially if Steph doesn't have a good shooting game tonight, and Looney has to step up. Like I said, I think it's all. Look, everyone's gonna have to step up, especially because this is a pivotal game 5. So it's gonna be interesting to see who does that. Will it be the more seasoned, experienced Warriors, or will it be kind of like the scrappy Celtics team that's number 1 in defense? So I don't know. I mean, but I think, look, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Tatum, they could probably do a little bit more. Like I said, their bench needs to get more involved to the Celtics bench. So there's like I said, there's a lot of parameters that I don't know if this will be answered tonight. Like I said, whoever wins this will get that chance to clinch it on Thursday. But again, so many weird things have been happening in this series, and I just feel like nothing would surprise me at this point, whatever happens. But but again, I mean, this is one of those NBA finals where you're just like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen.
So here's the thing for the Boston Celtics tonight. Can you survive the third quarter run of the Golden State Warriors? The last couple of games, the answer has been no. Will the answer be yes tonight? We'll see, but the Boston Celtics must play almost turnover-free ball game tonight. It's not going to be possible, but they got to limit their turnovers, still get after it defensively, but someone else is going to have to step up to help out Jason Tatum scoring right. So like I said, Lakeena, I'll say this one more time. 65 points between Tatum, Brown, and Smart. If they can get those 3 combined to score 65 points or more, they'll win. And Derek White, even though he had his performance was out of this world in game 1, he still has to come and spark that energy off the bench for the Celtics. As you mentioned, Ime Udoka doesn't play more than 2 guys, sometimes 3 off his bench. So we'll see what happens with the Celtics tonight. They got to avoid the silly turnovers. Don't get into the mind games of Draymond Green. Let him continue to crap himself down his pants, being light about that statement. But staying within your game and stay within yourselves, and do not let the Warriors get off in that third quarter, because if you do, you're in trouble.
Especially since they're at home, they
Exactly
tend to be more dangerous when they're at home. So if they go to have that that massive third quarter run like we know they can do, you may not be able to catch up. Now, you did catch up in game 1. I think that's probably like the one sort of consolation there. But at the same time, though, you wonder, like, okay, what's going to be kind of the end game here. So, like, it'll be interesting to see what happens here, because I feel like I said, I don't think there's no one's going to run away with this series. I think it's going to go 7. I think the Warriors will end up winning it. I think whoever wins tonight the other team will probably win on Thursday, I should say, and we'll be back on Sunday for talking about a game 7, perhaps.
Well, if you're the NBA, you want that. Because I don't know how the ratings have been for these first couple of games of the finals, but if it goes 7, the people haven't been tuned in to watch it. They'll watch the last couple of games of this series.
Yeah, we'll just see what happens there. Listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sunday Brown, Lakeena McGee with you. The Warriors will be losing one of their top assistants, as Kenny Atkinson has agreed to become the Hornets' next head coach, according to ESPN and some of the other networks. Of course, yes, he went 118 and 190 when he was with the Mets. I should say. I still feel like he got a raw deal with the Nets. I'm sure Nets fans would love to have him back, but like I said, that's a really good young core nucleus in Charlotte, with LaMelo Ball in the gang, and I feel like he's kind of like that right guy that can kind of get that team to the next level. I feel like.
Yeah, you saw what he did before Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving were brought there a couple years ago. He had all those young guys on the Brooklyn Nets with Karis LeVert and Jared Allen, who became an All-Star this year with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I know Karis LeVert is back in with the Cavaliers as well. He was
Cavs.
acquired by them at the trade deadline. But you saw all those young guys how they grew and played together as a team. Almost made the playoffs one of those years. So Kenny Atkinson is one of those coaches that can help guide the young guys along. And I expect them to do the same thing with Charlotte. Charlotte has been in the play-in tournament the last couple of years. They just can't seem to get over the hump and get to the actual playoff field. We'll see what happens next year. But this is a good hire for Charlotte. Michael Jordan's actually making some smart moves as a head man for a franchise.
Well, I think. Do you think? I think some of it might be MJ, but I feel like this is what happened. This is sort of why you let Mitch Kupchak do his job, because
Yeah.
this is his first rodeo. This is his first time with this. He's been done it with various teams over the years. So, I think there's definitely a more of a Atkinson. I mean, Mitch Kupchak hire than anything else. But like I said, we'll see how this goes. Like I said, I mean, they've got a good young nucleus there. It's easy for me to say, led by LaMelo Ball. So I feel like this is sort of like they've been close, to get into the playoffs the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
They just need kind of like that person to kind of get them to the next level. You got LaMelo, you got Miles Bridges, Kelly Oubre Jr., Terry Rozier, among others. So the core is there for the Hornets. They just need the right coach, and hopefully, Atkinson's the right coach for them.
Yeah, like you said, they have players. Also, PJ Washington's up there as well. I know Gordon Hayward's was injured off and on last year, but they have the pieces. Let's just hope they can put it all together, and I think they will to get into the playoffs next year. Even though the Eastern Conference is very competitive, as we saw this past season, it's going to get more competitive next year. And they as long as they stay injury free. They should be able to make the playoffs and maybe possibly avoid that play-in tournament, unlike the last couple of years.
Absolutely. So we'll see what happens there. I wish I could say that there's like Zach LaVine rumors, but there hasn't really been any. They kind of died down a little.
Oh, I'm disappointed.
Right. Well, but yeah. So I'm sure there'll be some stuff that'll come out on during the week. We'll talk about it on Friday, or So, but yeah. Well, we'll ask our buddy Josh Hicks all of that too in a few minutes. So, anything else? Because we still got some time left. Anything else you kind of want to talk about before we go to break? We got some time left.
Going back to the finals, Lakeena, I just want to say about the Boston Celtics. It was a great crowd watching it, obviously from home. The last couple of games, their fans are very fired up, and it was great to see the nostalgia of the NBA Finals returning to Boston. Back onto the court is what I really want to say. Robert Williams, who we talked about before, he's been their impact player, especially defensively from the interior. He's going to have to give it a little bit more tonight. I know that he's been struggling with that left knee injury that's been affecting him since the end of the regular season. It's going to be on head coach Ime Udoka how many minutes that he's going to play tonight. I know Williams played 31 minutes on Friday. He only had 12 rebounds and 4 points. But do you think that Coach Udoka is going to play him at least 25 minutes? It depends on how the game goes.
It's probably either how the game goes or even perhaps how his knee is. I mean, you can tell he's still struggling with that knee injury. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, could he have a breakout game tonight since this is a pivotal game 5? Sure, but I think Udoka might actually want to sort of do like he's been doing, kind of easing him him in. So I don't know. It all depends on how the game goes. I mean, if it's a blowout, either way, I think he'll probably keep him sort of at bay. But if it's sort of like if it's down to a wire, he might put him out there. So I don't know.
And on the flip side for the Golden State Warriors, this player could be a definite X factor tonight. He had 14 points on Friday. He took a couple of 3-point shots in the fourth quarter. That's Mr. Jordan Poole out of the University of Michigan, the third-year man out of Michigan. He struggled from 3-point range for 2 of 7, but those 2 3-pointers in that fourth quarter was huge for the Warriors. I expect them to go for at least 20 points tonight. Do you go over or under 20 points for Mr. Poole tonight?
I'll push. I think he'll get 20 because I think he'll definitely be pivotal, especially if it kind of goes out to a wire. So, like I said, we'll see what happens tonight. Zion Williams, at the still rehabbing from that foot injury. He was at a YMCA youth camp, youth basketball camp in New Orleans, saying that he wants to be here. He say, I do want to be here. That's no secret. I feel like I've stood on that when I spoke. He said, currently, this does not really have anything to do with that. That's just that me wanting to, kind of be a pillar of his community. Of course, you're doing a lot of community work and such. Do you believe him when he said that he wants to be in New Orleans?
I think he's saying that just to save face right now, Lakeena. I know that GM David Griffin is his hands are tied, in so to speak, right now. I'm sure they want to trade him, but outside of last season in that short 72 game season, you really don't have that much of a sample size on Mr. Williamson because he's been battling injuries ever since he was drafted 3 years ago. So, I think how the Pelicans will do, they'll just let this play out, see how next season will start for Zion, and heaven forbid that the Pelicans struggle, they could trade him at the trade deadline or talk about this again next summer. But you saw what the New Orleans Pelicans did at the end of the regular season, making a big push to make it to the playoffs. They won their 2 games of the play-in tournament. You saw they gave Phoenix all they had. They tired out Phoenix for Dallas to get rid of them in the next round. But New Orleans can actually say now for Zion, if you change your mind, you don't want to be here. We actually have proof now that we could do this without you in terms of making the playoffs and making some noise. We're not a championship level team, but we could be successful without you. We actually have proof now. We're not just selling wolf tickets anymore.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that because I feel like this is sort of one of those things where this might not be the last time we've heard of all this. So
no, we just getting started with that.
Yeah, I know. I think the Pelicans. I think the fact that they got to as far as they did, without no one really pushing the Suns to 7 and everything else. So I feel like this could be one of those things where, look, I think the Pelicans, I think they're showing you that they really don't need Zion. But again, we'll see what happens there. Now, seeing what else we can talk about real quick, NBA wise, anyway. Yeah, I mean, he wants to. LeBron, who is now a billionaire, thanks, according to Forbes. Apparently now he wants to expand talk of expansion in the NBA, and that he would be willing to lead a team in Vegas. Okay, oh dear. What do you think about that?
First of all, he'll have to retire for good in order for that to happen. And number 2, does he have the cash for it? Yes, he does. But he'll have to join the group to even purchase the team. We all know that professional sports for ownership is a good old boys network. Well, the rest of the owners club let LeBron James in. You can make an argument that LeBron James owns part of the league with his business partner Rich Paul running Clutch Sports. They have a bunch of NBA players along with other broadcasters and entertainers and whatnot. And so you can say that LeBron James owns part of the league already. But if he wants to own an NBA team, I don't have a problem with him winning. But the question is, will the rest of the owners let him into the club? Because let's be honest here, a whole lot of owners are still upset with him, what he did, how he maneuvered his way to Miami a decade ago, and giving this new generation of players the player empowerment that they so seek and what they're taking advantage of now.
And look, it'll be interesting to see how he does, running a team. I know he said he really wants to own a team in Vegas, but running a team and sort of some people say he probably been practicing it for the last decade, with the things he's done with Miami and now went out with the Lakers and Cleveland to some extent. But it's a different animal. And look, you can ask MJ. It's still very. It was still like very. She's just starting to kind of figure out what he's doing. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what he does. But I think at this point, I'm not saying it's a pipe dream. I'm not saying LeBron can't, own a team. He can look. He's more than capable. He's a very smart business guy. But it'll be interesting to see how this goes. But again, I mean, I'm sure he's already thinking about his post NBA career. But it'll be interesting to see how this goes.
Yep, hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead as you're listening to the Monday edition on Second City Sports. We're live and in living color. Sid Lakeena here with you. We'll kick off hour number 2 next with our buddy Josh Hicks, recent graduate of DePaul University and WARR Media columnist. He'll give us his preview of Game 5 of the NBA Finals between the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors, who will take control of the series. And will the series wrap up in Game 6, or are we headed towards the Game 7? All that and much more on Second City Sports, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
At a time when the news seems as subjective as the partisan politics dividing this country, independent professional journalism has become the resource people need to get the honest and accurate information for their lives. That's why I created JQuinnReports.com. As a born and raised Chicagoan, I know this city better than anyone. So my investigative stories are all original, and they'll go deeper to expose the truth by using information obtained from public information databases and in-depth interviews with the movers and shakers. My feature stories will introduce you to people and businesses who are changing the world, not just Chicago. My missing person stories will spotlight those who you don't hear about in the mainstream media, who are often overlooked. If you want to hear my personal views on things around the world, check out my blog site, which is based off of factual information and my life experiences. There's also past episodes of my weekly sports podcast show, What's Up Cuz, that I host with my real-life cousin, Lance Irvin. So if you're looking for all this information and more, check out jcoinreports.com and follow me on Twitter at jcoin.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
We have less than 60 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. We continue our NBA Finals talk by bringing on our guy. We bring in your guy. He's from WARR Media. He's their sports columnist and a recent grad of DePaul University. We don't have a panel for him today. We have him all to ourselves. He's the one and only Mr. Joshua M. Hicks. Josh, welcome to the show. How are you, my man?
Appreciate you guys. Love you guys as always. Thanks for the intro, Sid. But I got to give you the shout out because you're the one that's having fans taking pictures with you all over social media.
Right?
Well, you know. Well, thank you very much. You know, it was even though the Sox stunk it up over the weekend, it was nice to actually meet some of my Twitter followers. So it's actually nice to see their faces match up their tweets, and so it was a good time. Good times.
I'm pretty sure you gave him autographs as well. I would too if I was saying.
Well, not at that level yet, but we getting there. You're gonna get there soon enough, my friend. So let's talk about the NBA Finals before we get to the Game 5 preview tonight. Of course, the best of 7 series is tied up at 2 games apiece between Boston and Golden State. What are your thoughts? What have you observed through the first 4 games of this series? It's completely been a seesaw chess match between these two teams.
It has been, for me personally, the battle of the role players. When you look at the first few games, the winners of each of those games, the role players of each team outplayed the opponent. And Boston Celtics role players have been tremendous throughout this series, especially when you talk about the likes of Marcus Smart, Derek White. Robert Williams. Those guys have been forces for this team. But the reality is there's reasons why they're stars, and that's why they're superstars.
Mhm.
And the Golden State Warriors have a superstar in Steph Curry, who has been fantastic this whole series, especially in Game 4 with his 43-point performance. So I think even though Boston Celtics, great young team, they have a very strong core, very talented role players, and great defense combined with great offense. The Warriors are more experienced. They have the rings to prove it, and they also have the stardom to prove it. And the superstars, and their main superstar, has been taking things to the next level, and to a level that, quite frankly, we knew he could get, but he hasn't really lived up to consistently in the NBA Finals. This is the year where Stephen Curry is really putting his name, he's saying, put some respect on my name as we go through this NBA Finals.
What do you think is pivotal for both these teams to win this Game 5 tonight? Because we've been Sid and I were talking about just before you came on that both sides, role players on both sides need to step up. So what do you think about that?
I'm in agreement with that, but I also think the biggest key is turnovers. You have to limit turnovers, especially when the game slows down. Golden State Warriors they have always had a problem with that, but it really amplifies in the playoffs for them because of the fact that they play such a fast-paced game. And when they have played such a fast-paced game, that's when they're at their best. But it can also be their Achilles heel for teams like Boston, who is great at not just creating turnovers, but finishing on the other end and getting points off of those turnovers. So for Golden State, they definitely have to limit turnovers in order to keep things afloat for them and keep them at least with a striking distance of games. But for the Celtics as well, that's their Achilles heels too. When they turn over the ball, Golden State is at their best when they score off those turnovers. And that is the last thing you want to do, especially with Golden State being such an experienced team that's been through pretty much every situation you can think of in an NBA Finals. That's all that they need to get things running. And that's what happened in Game 4, which led to Steph Curry going nuts the way that he did. And it allowed, even though they didn't shoot the ball per se pretty well, timely buckets from Klay Thompson in that fourth quarter coming alive to help seal the deal. And key plays from other role players along the way, like Jordan Poole, to take things to that next level. So the key for both teams is turnovers. And I think whoever has the less turnovers by the end of Game 5, and even for the rest of the series, 9 times out of 10 is probably going to win that game.
We're talking NBA Finals with our guy, Josh Hicks from WARR Media, right here on Second City Sports Live in living color for a Monday. Sid Lakeena here with you on Sports Zone Chicago. Josh, I want to go back to Golden State and Draymond Green. Yours truly thought that he should have been kicked out of Game 2, but we all know that he totes the line. He's an agitator. He's the Warriors' emotional leader. It seems like the last 2 games in Boston, he's been the fact that I know Steve Kerr benched him a couple of times to one of them, I think it was Game 3 to start the fourth quarter, and not too many people saw that coming. What do you think that Draymond Green needs to do tonight and for the rest of the series? Because even though he grabbed 9 rebounds on Friday night in Game 4, it just seems like to me that his presence wasn't really there. He's really been rattled these last couple of games.
I think the problem with Draymond, when you really think about it, is we focus on his presence offensively versus what he truly is from a skill set perspective. Draymond is not an offensive player. He can provide offensive scoring for an offensive necessities per se, but he's not truly an offensive threat per se when it comes to scoring the ball. His role is facilitating the offense. His role is getting guys open through screens, and his role is making sure that he play makes correctly, combined with his defensive ability. So when you talk about defensively, he's been there, but in some ways inconsistent because he has more fouls than he has points all series long, which is a problem. However, offensively, he needs to be more aggressive and not in like just looking for his shot every once in a while per se, but in facilitating the offense and making the correct screens necessary to continue to get guys like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson open and make jump shots. Now it's up to those guys to make those jump shots. But Draymond has actually sort of been in and out. I don't want to say he's been non-existent, but you can say that from a role perspective and what he brings to the table, in a lot of ways, has been some inconsistencies. And I think that's going to change in Game 5 because when you get there, because for Boston, the worst thing was for you to do everything right and then you lose, especially on the defensive end, to the Golden State Warriors in ways that was pretty much outside of what you expect from Steph Curry. Because Klay didn't have the best game, Jordan Poole didn't have the best game, Draymond Green didn't have the best game, and yet you still lost. And you still lost. You're going to go back to San Fran in that Chase Center, where the Warriors are known to win at home and and have pretty much their offensive flow come back at home. I don't know if you're going to be able to slow that type of team now, especially a championship team like the Golden State Warriors. This is going to be a huge game for the Boston Celtics to hold on to and hopefully potentially get the win out of. But I expect Draymond Green to come out of that slump in Game 5 and take things to the next level for the Warriors.
Would be surprised if that happens. Now, what about Boston? I feel like I know Udoka doesn't like to use his bench so much. He didn't use in Game 4. I know, Grant Williams, and I know Robert Williams has been struggling a bit with that knee injury. Do you see anybody from the Sox, especially a role player, perhaps maybe stepping up tonight?
Derek White. Look out for Derek White. He was key for the Celtics in Game 4 because of the fact that he made so many timely 3-pointers to keep them in the game. But he's not just what he provides offensively, but he's a good high Q guy defensively as well. I would expect him to step up and play a huge role to give the Celtics a chance, because Celtics at home is completely different from Celtics on the road. And we know that if he brings what we know he can bring to the table, it'll give them at least a better chance of winning, because it's hard to beat Golden State on the road. So you want the best chance? I expect Derek White to be that guy that come to step up to the plate and hopefully lead the role player in charge off the bench to help at least give the Celtics a chance to win the game.
Sticking with the Celtics, Josh, Al Horford had a tremendous Game 1 performance. He's been a shell of himself over the last 3 games. He only had 8.6 rebounds in 28 minutes on Friday. What do you expect out of him tonight? I know you're not going to say a Game 1 type of performance. It'll be great, but what do you realistically expect out of Al Horford tonight for the C's?
I would expect more diversity. When I say that, versatility within his game that we know he can do. He can step out to the 3 and make the 3-point jump shot. He's also a force in the paint, but also a force defensively as well. Mm-hmm. Al Horford has struggled to shooting the ball as of late, obviously. But if he can at least make down a couple timely jump shots, and in some ways like he did in Game 4, it gives hope for the Celtics. Obviously, I would hope that he has a better shooting performance for the Celtics to have a greater chance of winning. But even though offensive scoring is not really his forte, he's mainly known as a defensive presence, along with and help screening in the pick and roll and with rebounding. If he does those things well and adds just a little bit of sprinkle magic on that jump shot, where he can make a couple threes here and there, I think that'll be enough to help give the Celtics a good chance to win the game.
Do you think who wins Game 5 will end up winning the series?
Yes. I definitely do, because 9 times out of 10, I expected this series to go to 7 games anyways. But along with the fact, aside from just matchups, exposure and experience is a whole other element to the finals realm, and the Warriors have a lot more of that than the Celtics do. And we knew that this was going to be a good series. There's going to be a very physical, and the series was going to be extended in some way, shape, or form. But Game 5 is going to be the key, especially now that the series is tied up, because 9 times out of 10, if you win Game 5, you have 2 chances to win in Game 6 and Game 7. And based on who you are, I'd rather go with the home court advantage than not have the home court advantage at all. So if Boston wins Game 5, they better win Game 6. Otherwise, they're in for a rude awakening.
We're halfway home with our guy, Josh Hicks from WARR Media, right here on Second City Sports, live and in living color on a Monday edition, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. Say that 5 times fast. Josh, let's go back to the Golden State Warriors, and his impact on the floor ever since he debuted in Game 2 has been Gary Payton II on the defensive end. What do you expect out of him tonight? Because you could tell that the Warriors, they didn't have him in Game 1 when they lost, but his impact on the floor has been tremendously felt for this Golden State team.
He knows his role, and he knows offensively he's not going to be a go-to option offensively, but what he brings to this defensive tenacity that he brings to the table defensively, hey, he got it from his pops. Pops taught him well, and to be able to exploit that defensively is what the Golden State Warriors need. They need defensive stoppers. They need that defensive presence, especially amongst the perimeter, because they got two guys that on the wing that are under 25, but them boys can put up some buckets. So to be able to do that, you need to be able to at least slow one of them down. And Gary Payton has been able. Gary Payton II has been able to do that. If he maintains that within itself alone will ease the defensive responsibilities of the Warriors per se. Especially when you talk about guys like maybe Steph Curry, who needs a lot of that energy to promote on the offensive end. So just maintain what you're doing, man. If you continue to do what you're doing and continue to do what Pops told you, well, you're not only going to be maybe one day defensive player of the year, but you're going to be a champion like your Pops too. So keep it. So let's maintain that, man.
Could happen this week too. Actually, he might get his ring this week. Let's go outside the NBA Finals for a second. We'll talk some Bulls. I'm sure you've heard all the weird rumors of involving Zach LaVine. Portland, Dallas, Atlanta, San Antonio. What is your without saying? I don't know how plugged in you are, sort of like behind the scenes, but what is your prediction? Does Zach resign with the Bulls? Does he end up going somewhere else? Is it going to be a sign-in trade? What's your prediction?
I've heard that Zach LaVine just loves Chicago. He's always been a fan of the city, loves playing for the franchise. And I think his biggest thing, he wants to win, but I think it matters about where he wins. And on top of where he wins, if the franchise is willing to do what it can to help take him to that next level. And that's what the Bulls have done. The Bulls turned a team from that didn't make the playoffs to at one point the best team in the Eastern Conference prior to all these injuries. And to be able to do that with that quick of a turnaround, I think it shows a lot of promise. And it shows that, if he was to stay in Chicago, the Bulls would do whatever it takes. And that front office has shown that. With that being said, though, rumors are rumors. And at the same time, people want to get the narratives across. And you have to be mindful of the history of people that are familiar and have been called out for some of those things. His agent is Rich Paul. Rich Paul's with LeBron James and Clutch Sports. That's from what I've heard. That's part of the role of being an agent, right? So it's just some things you just have to monitor when you hear certain things within the news media. But I personally do believe Zach LaVine does love the city, from what I've heard regarding to Chicago. When I talked to Javonte Green, he pretty much said he's just working on himself and his game to help make sure he can make life easy for Zach. So with him telling me that shows that he expects him to come back next year. And he is preparing for that move. So I wouldn't be too hasty on the rumors of him leaving the city of Chicago, because I think he really does love the city and wants to be here. However, he is a free agent. You can't doubt him for exploring other options.
Sticking with the Bulls, Josh, assuming that Mark Eversley and Arturas Karnisovas do not trade that 18th pick which they have this year in the NBA draft, yours surely has said that the Bulls need shooters, perhaps two shooters this offseason, and they need a defensive presence within the interior. Assuming they don't trade that pick, which players that you think the Bulls are eyeing on to take with that pick at number 18?
I think for me personally, I cannot remember his name, so please forgive me, charge my head, not my heart. But the guard/forward from Ohio State.
EJ Liddell.
Liddell. Yes, I like him as a good fit, because when you talk about the Bulls and what they are really truly looking for, Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley said from the beginning when they first arrived, we want a team that's versatile, which means you can play multiple positions offensively and defensively. EJ Liddell is the one guy that I've paid attention to closely from a draft perspective that can do all of that and more. And to be able to put that in a role setting, especially from a wing perspective, I think he can be a good asset for ready players right now. And the Bulls are in a position where they want to win right now. So because of that, you can't necessarily draft players that you can, take long time to develop. Mm-hmm. You have to pick players that are ready to play and plug in a certain role right now. They saw that with Ayo Dosunmu, and look at what he did. That's the second rookie team in the NBA. They can do the same thing with EJ Liddell. And if EJ Liddell comes in, continues to grow and improve himself with his veteran presence from his 3 years at Ohio State, I think he will be able to help take the Bulls to the next level on that bench role. And having EJ Liddell will not only be able to help boost the Bulls offensively and defensively, but when you talk about these trade rumors about who they could be looking out for, who could they be potentially bringing in, trade rumors with Rudy Gobert, trade rumors potentially with Anthony Davis, things of that sort. You need to have players that are valuable assets within the draft that people need to see that are valuable and that can take to the next level. EJ Liddell is one of those people. So I think the Bulls would do themselves a huge favor by drafting EJ Liddell, whether they keep him or maybe use him as trade bait down the line to get other superstar talent to come here, because executives are watching, but most importantly, the stars are watching. And as the stars are watching, this draft could be a key as to see whether they want to even utilize their options to potentially look into coming to Chicago, which is even far better than what we've had over the past decade.
Absolutely. Let's talk about those Rudy Gobert rumors for a second. Everyone's playing with their trade machines and such. It's just absurd, some of the trades that have been floating around. And I know Nikola Vucevic kind of put out there, hey, look, I don't know. Look, as far as I know, I'm staying. And then I guess he came out too and said, well, wait a minute, how do y'all know what I'm thinking? So what do you think about all these Rudy Gobert rumors and such?
Oh, Rudy. I will say this. I love the idea of bringing Rudy to Chicago, but not at that price. And especially if you're trying to keep and maintain the model of what the Bulls are really about, or really trying to improve on, which is versatility on both ends on the floor. Rudy Gobert brings everything you need defensively: rebounding, shot blocking ability, defensive presence, protecting the paint. He has it all. But what are you going to get offensively? And that is something that in a Billy Donovan offense, he needs to expand that playbook in order for that to become a reality, because now you can't just do random ball movement or ball movement. You have to do a lot more pick and roll. You got to do a lot more set plays. And Rudy Gobert offensively is more of a pick and roll guy, not a pick and pop, which is something that Billy Donovan loves about Vucevic, because we've seen them run a lot of plays, especially when Lonzo Ball was running that point guard position and getting those pick and pop options with Vucevic. So if you're going to bring Rudy Gobert here, you got to expand the playbook and also bring the right talent to Chicago to surround Rudy Gobert to pick up what he does lack. And right now, the Bulls may not have that. So if they don't have that, you're giving up something to gain, what you need on one end, but you're losing something valuable on the other end, which for Billy Donovan and the coaching staff, and being an offensive-minded coach that he is, might be a little bit of a struggle. So I'm not a fan, per se, of bringing Rudy Gobert for that price, because you would need the money to help surround the additional talent that you would need to make up what Rudy Gobert doesn't bring to the table. But if money wasn't an option, I would be for it. Because the Bulls need the presence, and they need that defensive presence, which is something that Vucevic has struggled with, trying to play both ends of the floor, and like he did this past year.
Final moments or two with Joshua M. Hicks, our guy from WARR Media, right here on Second City Sports, live and in living color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Josh, let's go to LeBron James. The story's been out there over the last couple of weeks that he's interested in owning the NBA team, particularly if and when the city of Las Vegas gets a franchise. I saw your comments on Twitter the last couple of months. Should the league expand? If Vegas gets the team, the city of Seattle should get a team as well. They should be together, in my personal opinion. Do you think that LeBron James has a realistic chance of owning an NBA team? Me and Lakeena talked about this wrapping up the last hour, that LeBron James, quote unquote, owns part of the league already with certain NBA players. And we know head coach Mark Jackson, used to be head coach Mark Jackson, now broadcaster. He's under Clutch Sports. And so LeBron James owns half the league already because they're working for his buddy Rich Paul. And second of all, that the NBA owners are their exclusive club, and some of them do not want LeBron James in their club because of what he did in maneuvering himself to Miami a little bit over a decade ago. Do you think that when it's all said and done, when LeBron retires, do you think he'll be part of full-time ownership of an NBA team?
I'll take it even a step further, per se. I think he would if I was the NBA, I would do that. I would make sure that absolutely happens because LeBron James expanded the league, not just from a game perspective, locally, but internationally as well. You gotta put LeBron James in some group to maintain your marketing value. That's so that if I was the NBA, I would do it. But to your point, Sid, about ownership and about how the NBA owners view him, that might be a block from him getting there. So if that is the case, why not go to the WNBA side? Because guess what? They're expanding as well. They're looking for ownerships in their league. They're looking for expansion teams as early as this year. They're trying to get something settled. So if you're talking about moving and increasing teams in the WNBA, yeah, you may want to go to Vegas and get one, which I would love for LeBron James to do. But if they're gonna make it that difficult, you might as well just hop over to the WNBA team because we know you're supportive of the WNBA, and you will get even more support from the players themselves. Dana Evans from the Chicago Sky told me that'll be great for LeBron James to be owner in the WNBA. I would even go as far as maybe even having him put people like Vanessa Bryant and Candace Parker, who are big supporters of the WNBA, put them in the ownership circle and taking that to the next level. And I'm telling you, if he does that, although the NBA is ideal from an impact perspective, and when it comes to social justice issues, when it comes to narratives around social justice, when it comes to improving the game in those areas, LeBron James needs to be the face of the WNBA in that expansion realm and taking it to the next level that way, aside from what he can do in the NBA. Because we already know in the NBA he can do that, and I'm pretty sure he can get into that circle eventually over time when the league does expand. But the WNBA being the baby sister of the NBA, as someone that has been vocal and supportive of the WNBA, and as someone
I think he froze. I think our buddy Josh froze a little bit. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if he can get back up. I actually wouldn't mind the idea
that
of him.
has,
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's freezing on us. But yeah, I actually don't mind the idea of him. Well, can you repeat what you said, Josh? You froze up a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. So I was just saying that I think if you bring LeBron James to the WNBA side of things and add other NBA players, like Dwayne Wade or other players or like Tobias Harris, players that have been outspoken about being part of the ownership group in the WNBA, you bring that influence to the WNBA and help expand that marketing that way, I think it'll be a bigger impact than him just going to the NBA and expanding another team within the NBA. I think he can do both. Well, the WNBA to me will be much more impactful, and I think he has the resources to get it done within the WNBA and take it to the next level. And I think that will actually help the WNBA immensely as far as them expanding their game and their marketing and getting more people to fill up those arenas, which respectfully they should, especially when it comes to the player values from a dollar perspective and salary perspective that those WNBA players do deserve.
When also with the TV contracts, coming up soon. I think like the highest I've seen is like 125 million, which would be huge for them. So I think having LeBron be part of the ownership group, I think can only help and sort of expand the not just the popularity of it, but sort of like you said, the cities of it too. So last question for me, real quick. Of course, Darvin Ham is now new head coach with the Lakers. Mike Brown with the Kings. Kenny Atkinson officially, once the finals are over with, will be the new head coach of the Hornets. Who fills that position at Utah, and which team do you think made a home run with their new head coach?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I think if with Quinn Snyder being gone, I think you have to see really what happens with Donovan Mitchell and that Rudy Gobert situation, because if they choose to leave or they want to leave, it's time for Utah to go into a rebuild. And if Utah goes down that path and goes down that rebuilding path, you're going to want a fresh new head coach. Mm-hmm. So I will probably go with a rookie head coach per se. I don't know exactly who's out there on the table. I think Vanderpool, who's with the Timberwolves, he was an option to look into. It's other. I think you just got to look into potential rookie head coaches, not a seasoned veteran. And a lot of it's going to be based on what Utah does with their stars. And if their stars choose to go, you need to rebuild, clean this whole slate, start with a clean slate, and bringing a rookie head coach to help rebuild this roster. Similarly to what people like Kenny Atkinson did with the Brooklyn Nets, elevating that young core to a playoff team. I think that's the route they need to go. I don't know exactly from a rookie coach perspective who's available, but I think depending on what the superstars do, it's time for Utah to move on.
All right, you've been listening to our buddy Joshua M. Hicks. He's the sports comments for WARR Media and a recent graduate of DePaul University. Lakeena, let's give him a big hand for that. Yeah, he graduated over the weekend with his bachelor's degree. Was it, or was it your master's?
My master's.
All right, that's how we do it. Josh, tell everybody how can they follow you on social media.
Yeah, follow me on social media at Josh M. Hicks Media, all things WARR Media and other projects along the way in the scope happening podcast wise. Check it all out. Check it all there.
All right, we'll continue to support you. Once again, congratulations on graduating from the University of DePaul. Great things that are ahead of you as always. And great job with us as always today right here on Second City Sports. Keep up the great work. We'll talk to you again soon.
Most definitely. Much love to y'all.
All right,
back
you
at
too.
you. Stay safe, Josh. All right, that was WARR Media's Josh Hicks, and we're going to take a really quick break. Got a lot to talk about still. We got a Stanley Cup final to preview. Should be a really good one. Also, too, your Rory wins up north as in preparation for the U.S. Open, and so much more.
And also, too, Old School TV Monday. Your show is going to pay tribute to a TV show that marries sports and entertainment as we look at it today.
Let me see. I might have a couple of guesses, but I'm going to say it after we come back from our break, along with Cindy Brown. I'm Lakeena McGee. This is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you on the other side of this break.
At a time when the news seems as subjective as the partisan politics dividing this country, independent professional journalism has become the resource people need to get the honest and accurate information for their lives. That's why I created JQuinnReports.com. As a born and raised Chicagoan, I know this city better than anyone. So my investigative stories are all original, and they'll go deeper to expose the truth by using information obtained from public information databases and in-depth interviews with the movers and shakers. My feature stories will introduce you to people and businesses who are changing the world, not just Chicago. My missing person stories will spotlight those who you don't hear about in the mainstream media, who are often overlooked. If you want to hear my personal views on things around the world, check out my blog site, which is based off of factual information and my life experiences. There's also past episodes of my weekly sports podcast show, What's Up Cuz, that I host with my real-life cousin, Lance Irvin. So if you're looking for all this information and more, check out jQuinnReports.com and follow me on Twitter at jQuinn.
All right, welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Cindy Brown. I'm Lakeena McGee. We got about 20 to 25 minutes left, so we got to do this stuff rapid fire. So let's get to it and talk some Stanley Cup Final. It will be the Tampa Bay Lightning, the two-time champs, defending champs, the back-to-back champs, going for a three-peat against the Colorado Avalanche. This should be a very interesting series, Sid, because it's good. You got a seasoned team like the Lightning. You got a great, scrappy young team. Well, not young-ish in the Avs. So where do you see this series? Because I feel like this could be this is go back and forth like the NBA Finals. But what do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be an entertaining series. I believe that the Tampa Bay Lightning has a little bit more firepower offensively than the Colorado Avalanche. Now, the Avalanche, they played together more of a unit than Tampa, but Tampa has the more of a firepower, especially with Nikita Kucherov. He leads the Lightning with 23 points overall, with 7 goals and 16 assists. And we all know about Andre Palat. He had a couple of game-winning goals in that New York Rangers series, and also too Steven Stamkos. Remember, I told you on Friday. The Rangers should have started that fight with them at the end of Game 5 when they lost it. And you saw what happened in Game 6 on Saturday when the Lightning took care of the New York Rangers. So Tampa Bay has a lot of firepower offensively, but I think it's going to come down to the power play. Lakeena, Colorado has been outstanding on the power play in these playoffs, and so in Tampa Bay's total defense in general, they've barely given up over 2.5 goals per game. I think in almost over half of their playoff games, they limit their opponents to 2 goals or less. And that's been outstanding. And also credit their goaltending for the Lightning, Andre Valesky as well. He's been really playing on his head. If you saw the last couple of games of the Eastern Conference Final Series, you know why one of the main reasons why Tampa Bay is back in the Stanley Cup Final.
I mean, Stamkos has been amazing, and look, we saw a few years ago when the Hawks won their second against Tampa Bay. He was kind of like those young guys. He's grown into such a great consistent scorer. Of course, you got Ratsanen from for the Avs. We'll see how Kadri is. I know he's been day to day with that injury, so we'll see how he does. I think for me in this series, I think both teams can score, but like you said, I think it's good. The goaltender is going to be the key here, and I know Quimper for the Avs can be really good. It shows, and Volesky, as you said, Sid. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see which one of these goalies will step up for them, because they're going to be scoring on all cylinders, and both these teams have a lot of depth. So it's going to be very interesting to see what who kind of brings kind of is that goal that kind of make those key stops. Because I think that's going to be the key, and it's going to be very interesting though.
And also, too, on the flip side for Colorado, don't forget Gabriel Landeskog, who's been there for a while now. He's been through the latter stages of that rebuild from Colorado. He's been through the Patrick Waugh administration from a few years ago. He's part of this current core right now. And also, too, Darcy Kemper, their goalie, he's been bouncing around for various teams throughout his career. He's found a home in Colorado, and he's shown that he could be one of the top goalies in these playoffs. And his 2-0 record with 2.4 goals against average against the Tampa Bay Lightning during the regular season series bears that out as well. But overall in the playoffs, Darcy Kemper has been good enough for Colorado to be at this stage, finally at the Stanley Cup Final.
Also, too, I think Anthony Cirelli, the center, I think he'll definitely be key for the Lightning too. Comfort, for the Avalanche. I think that's another guy that could probably be very key. Sort of, he kind of fills that hole since Kadri's been, in and out of the lineup. Eric Johnson is another defenseman for the Avs that could probably be an X factor as well. So there are a lot of guys. Of course, we know Nathan McKinnon. We know how good he can be. He can score and sort of be right there, kind of play defenseman as well. So and Ryan McDonough. This isn't his first rodeo in the Stanley Cup Final. So there's going to be a whole lot of like we've been saying, whoever steps up, I think is going to be key for me. It's going to be scoring. It's going to be which goalie can kind of stand on his head and sort of make those pivotal stops when necessary, and who can kind of take advantage of it early. Because I have the Avs winning. I think they're going to win in 6. but I wouldn't be surprised if somehow the Lightning, gets a three-peat. So, like I said, it's really going to depend on how the game goes. I think it's going to look if you're ESPN ABC, I think you've got to be feeling pretty good about this matchup. I think.
Yeah, for show purposes, Lakeena, I'll go opposite against you. I'll pick Tampa Bay in 7. It wouldn't surprise me Colorado wins it, but it's going to be a competitive series, and I think it's going to come down to special teams. Of course, which power playing unit is going to which power playing unit steps up. As I mentioned before, Colorado has been the best in these playoffs thus far. Tampa Bay can light the lamp too, even without the extra man advantage. It's going to come down to special teams and which defensive pair will for both teams will stand out the most. Don't forget Victor Hedman. He's another star defenseman for Tampa Bay as well. Some people say he should have won the Conn Smythe Trophy when the Hawks beat them in 2015. He was a young stud back then, but he's a seasoned veteran as well on the blue line for Tampa Bay.
Well, and like I said, if you're ABC, ESPN's going to be on ESPN Plus. I think you can stream it. I think you got to be feeling pretty good about this matchup. I think you got one team that's going for 3 in a row, or 4 overall, and also you have another team that hasn't been around a while. And they went through a teardown. They started over. They finally actually found a core that they can work with. So that's actually been pretty consistent all year. So yeah, this should be a fun series. I don't think no one's going to sweep anybody. I think this is going to go 6 or even 7. It could. I wouldn't be surprised if they go 7. And if Tampa shows some of that experience that they've shown, through all these playoffs. I mean, we saw almost being eliminated. They did it 3 times. So, and I know. Look, I think Paulette's another guy that from the Lightning that was around during those sort of lean, young lean years. Of course, he was there also too when they got to the final against the Blackhawks a few years ago, and he's growing into a great center guy as well. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things where you kind of like it's going to depend on who steps up. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so there goes your hockey talk, hockey fans. Lakeena has Colorado in 6. George Shirley has Tampa Bay in 7. So we'll see what happens there. The Stanley Cup final will start off Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. All games will be seen on ABC. You can view the alternate broadcast on ESPN Plus. And the Colorado Avalanche will have home ice advantage for this one. This is a 2-2-1-1-1 scenario. They never had a 3-2, 2-3-2. Thank goodness.
They've never done that. Yeah.
So Colorado will have 4 home games in this series compared to Tampa Bay's 3.
Yeah. So because they had one of the best records in the league, so that's why they were able to do that. Now, our little golf talk here, real quick. Of course, Rory McIlroy wins the RBC Canadian Open, and with all the stuff that's going on with the Live tour and such, I know that Jay Monahan, who's the commissioner of the PGA, he was there with Jim Nantz and Sir Nick Faldo over the weekend. And I mean, he really didn't give us a non-answer on why he did what he did, suspending guys that go play on the Live tour. We know that Dustin Johnson has already resigned. The U.S. Open is going to let those guys play. So Brookline is going to be very interesting this week, and for all reasons, not just we'll talk more about this with Christy when she comes back, in with us Friday. Christine Manico for KXRB. Yeah, this is definitely going to be interesting because I feel like, I don't know. I mean, look, I'm sure this is going to be the talk in Brookline, which is just outside Boston. But I mean, that was a great tournament. I actually watched a little bit of it. He had a little bit of a battle with Justin Thomas. Justin Rose actually shot at 60, which got him. He was a clubhouse heater for a while. Rory was able to hold off Tony Finau and Rose and Justin Thomas as well. So, but going into the U.S. Open, of course, we know Tiger's not going to play, which is smart on his part because he definitely needs to take some time to rehab from that.
Yeah, he saw in his last couple of tournaments he could barely walk. It was real sad. And shout out to him for his bravery and courage, but he did not look good walking on those courses in those last couple of tournaments.
Yeah, so the Live tournament stuff's definitely be the core here. We'll see, how NBC sort of does. I'm sure Dan Hicks and Paul Azer will be leading the charge for the U.S. Open. Starting on Thursday. I'm sure they'll be talking about the Live tour and such. So I'm looking forward to their comments. I know Azer has been pretty quiet about it, so I'm dying to see what his comments are going to be. So should be an interesting tournament coming up starting on Thursday over at Brookline for the U.S. Open. Sid?
Yep. You listen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. You're listening to Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you, riding out for the last few minutes here on the show. A couple of sports media nuggets to pass along. LeBron James, according to Awful announcer from our good friends over there, he said in his last episode of The Shop that he'll be interested in getting to the TV game. Kind of like Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, and Shaq, which those guys are doing a great job over on Turner Sports. LeBron James was quoted as saying, "If they offer me a Tom Brady type deal to analyze games, hell yeah, I'll take it." Would you like to see a LeBron James break down NBA games?
Well, we know he's got a great personality, but calling games and analyzing games, that's a whole different animal. So we've seen some guys and gals not be so good at it. they tried it for a little bit and it says not be good at it. Now I don't know if there's a network that's going to give him that $375 million however it is that Fox.
He doesn't need the money.
He doesn't need it. So it's not. I don't think he just probably wants to kid a little bit of one-upsmanship on Brady. But yeah, I mean, I could probably see maybe ESPN. I'm sure there's going to be enough room for him there on ESPN. I mean, we know on the Turner side, we know that Charles Barkley has said that he probably will retire in a couple of years. So you're going to need somebody to kind of fill that role. You're assuming if Draymond's still playing, and assuming that however long LeBron's still playing. We don't know how LeBron's going to play, unless he wants to do like a CJ McCollum type deal where you can kind of analyze games, maybe do some college too. I know he didn't play in college, but I know he knows the game the college game pretty well too. So I mean, I wouldn't mind it. I mean, just to see if maybe he'd be good at it. I'm sure maybe dip his toe into it. I'm sure other networks dipping their toes into it with him and sort of see would it be a good fit for him to do it. I mean, maybe for him, I think a podcast might be better suited for him. I think do the podcast route first, and then maybe see if he wants to do the TV and analysts and such. Does he want to do analyzing games for like about 2 hours, 2.5 hours and such? I don't know if he was going to want to do. I don't think LeBron's a little too amped up for that. But I mean, just to kind of dip a toe dipping thing to see if it goes well.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that.
What about you?
If he's good at it, fine. I'm not one of those ones. I don't hate the guy, but he's a very articulate young man, which is a very great thing to see, especially the people that look like us. But it depends on what other roles that he could do. I don't know if he can sit there. I'm not saying he couldn't do it. I'm not saying he couldn't sit there at courtside and break the game down. I can see him doing, like you said, a Charles Barkley type role as a studio analyst. I can see him doing something like that. But any other roles that, assuming that he works with Turner, kind of like what Kevin Garnett did a few years ago with the KG club. I forgot what it was called. I think LeBron could do something like that as well.
Yeah, I think that's probably. Yeah, like I said, I'm sure ESPN and Turner probably would love to have his services and such. Now, again, him being, if he becomes an owner of the NBA, or that he might not be able to, he won't be able to do that. So
exactly,
I think when I hear some of the comments that he made, I want to be an analyst or I want to own a team, and whether it's the WNBA or in the NBA, he's not gonna be able to do any of that. So unless he does what with D Wade did, do it for a couple of years and then become part of an ownership group. So we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be, very interesting to see what he does. But yeah, it'll be interesting though. And some stuff that just came across the wires here, according to Andrew Marchand. This is about less than an hour ago. Carissa Thompson will host the Amazon Thursday night pregame show. There were other folks that are in consideration, but it looks like Carissa will, has a job, and I guess this won't affect her duties with Fox with extra too. She's got about 100 jobs herself, so. Yeah, she and Tony Gonzalez, they worked together for a few years, so that really wasn't a problem there either. So I know there were other interests as well. We'll see. Their people are almost set. I know they've got other guys that they're perhaps maybe thinking about perhaps bringing in. I know that Kaylee Hartom's name's been floating around as a sideline gig for that, but a good pickup though by Amazon.
Yeah, Carissa Thompson's a seasoned pro. She hosts part of that number one pregame show on Fox. With the Fox NFL Kickoff with Coach State Ronstadt, Colin Cowherd, Peter Schrager, and Michael Vick. I don't think is there anymore. He's taking on a new role. Yeah, so they're gonna have to find a replacement for him. But for him, but she does a great job. She's a seasoned veteran, and she's a pro. She knows what she's doing, so she'll do a fine job for Amazon.
Absolutely. Any other sports media news that kind of caught your attention this weekend?
Oh, yes. Sticking with basketball, Draymond Green's next adventure is a media project, is focusing on religion in sports in the Amazon Prime Video special, explaining his ongoing quest for mental health. There's been a significant amount of discussion around Golden State Warriors forward Draymond Green's budding media career, from his contributions to Turner Sports and to his podcast with Colin Cowherd on the Volume Network. And that's sparkled interests back and forth. There's now another media project en route from Green, and it will premiere Friday, June 17th, 2 days before a potential Game 7 of the NBA Finals between the Warriors and the Celtics. And this project it isn't a live project from Green, though. This shouldn't lead to any further debates about his current quote-unquote focus. Rather, it's a documentary special from Religion of Sports in Amazon Studios, looking at Green's ongoing quest for mental health, involving him meeting with spiritual and wellness legends. And let's see, spiritual and wellness legends Deepak Chopra and Master Healer, well-being educator Debbie Brown. Chopra's son, Gotham, the Religion of Sports founder and a director for most of their projects, will be directing this. And they have clips of it on the website at awfulannouncing.com. And so Draymond Green is expanding his horizons, and we'll see how it does. And as we said before, with other athletes getting involved with the Players Tribune, I know Russell Westbrook is involved in himself in the entertainment field. We know LeBron James is as well. These players are not going through the quote-unquote traditional route anymore. They're telling their own stories, and they're using their own money to back them, and they're using their own voices. They don't have to depend on anybody else to carry out their own opinions. They control the narratives. They control their own body of work.
Yeah, and there are so many avenues you can do it. You can do it on like a streaming service like Amazon Prime, like HBO Max, like Netflix and Hulu. And the money's not gonna be an issue, because they'll get their cuts and such, and whatever streaming numbers is. Now in this case here with Draymond, I know Draymond's a very religious guy. I know he's a very spiritual guy as well. So we'll see if you're into that. I think you can definitely check this out. Go on Amazon Prime, and I'm sure it will probably be on YouTube or something like that at some point if you don't have Amazon, but Amazon Prime, I should say. But yeah, I mean, look, this will be like right before a potential Game 7. So, I guess you can kind of check that out beforehand, or maybe check after the game, win or lose, if the Warriors are in that situation. But this will be interesting too if you're into that.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Here's our last subject for today, Lakeena. Let's pay tribute to this is Old School TV Monday. Let's pay tribute to we pay tribute to old school TV shows that have made an impact that most people do not talk about. And today, Lakeena, we're going to pay tribute to an old school TV show that helped marry sports and entertainment together to help the NBA and hip hop and pop culture come together like this. I am talking about the MTV Rock and Jock series. The MTV Rock and Jock is a television series on MTV featuring actors, musicians, and other entertainers playing sports with professional athletes. The original episode was called the MTV Rock and Jock Diamond Derby and was changed to MTV's Rock and Jock Softball Challenge in year 2. Concept expanded to include basketball in 1991 and football in 1997, bowling in 1999. The game was an annual feature with multiple reruns of most episodes for many years on MTV. The original announcers were professional sports broadcaster Steve Albert, the younger brother of Marv Albert, and comedian Ken Ober, who provided color commentary. Bill Bellamy, the comedian, and MTV Sports host Dan Cortez initially participated as players and then as coaches in later years. The 4th annual Rock and Jock B-Ball Jam was nominated for a Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Game Show in 1995, losing to Jeopardy! Here's the list of the partial list of shows. It was the first MTV Rock and Jock Diamond Derby took place in 1990. The announcers were Steve Albert and Ken Ober. The team coaches were Sam Kinison, the old school great comedian, and Sammy Hagar was the other coach. And the sideline reporters then Lakeena was Martha Quinn, Kevin Seal, Downtown Julie Brown, and Jim Turner.
Well, and also too, if you look at some of the players, they actually use both MLB and other players as
Mm-hmm.
well. Some of the players, Barry Larkin, Mark McGuire,
Yep.
Daryl Strawberry, Rafael Palmeiro, among others. And some of the actors that were on there. You have Bret Michaels, of course, with Poison. Kevin
Mm-hmm.
Costner. I think this was right before he won those 2 Oscars for Dances with Wolves, among others. We know he's a big baseball fan too from Field of Dreams. Rest in peace to radio by the way, Sheila So Jackson, who passed away recently.
Mm-hmm.
Among others. And on the basketball side, that was around the time when we got cable for the first time. And I remember watching this. I'm like, okay, this is an interesting show here. But yeah, Morris Chestnut, of course, Marky Mark, Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, I was watching that last night. Morris Chestnut was dropping the 50-piece in that charity game.
I think
it was the first one in October of '91 in LA.
He played basketball in high school, I believe.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why. Jaleel White, we know how great of a basketball player he is.
Yeah.
R&P Luke Perry too. Will Smith was also a part of that. Of course, we know what a great basketball player he is. Belbert DeVos, and also new additions, Michael Bivens.
Yeah, he was busting out Tim Hardaway moves.
Yes, he was. Remember Parker Lewis Can't Lose? I forgot.
Yes, one of the first shows for Fox.
He played about high school basketball at one point. So yeah, there were so many. I mean, look, those were so hilarious. I mean, some of the top people in. Also, Queen Latifah, I believe, was also part of the Rocket Drop as well. So she, of course, she played basketball in high school as well. So, I miss those days because it was so funny, and you look forward to the repeats. I would watch those repeats like to death. And this was before you were able to record stuff, on the VCR. Remember that, the VCR.
Yes.
It was such a great time on MTV. I miss those days.
Me too.
And it was just hilarious. Of course, it was all good fun. Of course, they for charity and such. The winning team would get, I think, 100,000 for charity, or 50,000, or the second, the losing team, if you will, 25 grand or something like that would all go to charity for both the softball and the basketball. And I mean, like I said, I miss those times, but it was hilarious. So some of the folks were mic'd, so you get to hear. And of course, I remember Steve had to kind of warn. I don't know who he was talking to. He had to warn them to not swear because it's going to be on basic cable television or something like that. Yeah. So that was hilarious. But I mean, it was all good fun. I know ESPN did it with softball during the All-Star game. I think they stopped doing that. I think it was right before the pandemic too. And you miss those type of times, those type of times when, with all the stuff going on in the world, that was kind of like a good way to escapism, if you will, if you can call it that. Escapist television. Yeah, because the Go Forward is happening during that time.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there was sort of a way to kind of get away from that for a lot of people. So I could see why it was such a cool, fun time too.
Yeah. Real quickly, Keena, I know we're running up against it, but remember we talked about this a couple months ago, how can the NFL revitalize the Pro Bowl? Do what the MTV did with the Rock and Jock. If this isn't a great idea, I don't know what is.
Yeah, do like a flag football kind of thing.
Exactly.
You get some of those Pro Bowl players. You can probably get some. I think they did that too. I believe they did that. I think a few years back. But again, this is right before the pandemic, so I don't know if this was supposed to be a yearly thing or if they just stopped doing it because of the pandemic. But get some, some of the top, people from TV and film and other sports. You do a flag football. You don't do like a tackle football. You do a flag football style where points are scored, touchdowns, maybe field goals, or maybe you get extra points for great touchdown celebrations or defensive celebrations. Yeah. Get bonus points for that, and sort of keep that same sort of blueprint, but just sort of expand it, and also to make it make sense for 2022, but or 2023 in this case with a Pro Bowl. So, and I think I miss those times. Excuse me, where you get softball, basketball, football, and I don't know if you can do it with hockey because a lot of people you really can't skate very well. Unless you roller hockey, that'd be a nice little that'd be a nice little job as well. So I don't know, but yeah, I mean, Rock and Jock, pour one out for the homie. Such great times, slippery times in the early 90s.
Yes. Yeah, so you can check those episodes. They're actually available on YouTube. I watched the first one last night with the basketball back in 1991. As you mentioned, Marky Mark in the Funky Bunch. Marky Mark dropped his pants like 3 times during that halftime performance. And now we're looking at what some of these idiots do today. It's nothing compared to what he did back then. And some people were disturbed back then. It ain't nothing compared to what some of these fools do today. But that's a whole nother issue. But like you said, those are great times. Just type in MTV Rock and Jock, and all those episodes will come up on YouTube. So if you look at for some nostalgia, please check those out, especially for our younger viewers and listeners. So those were great entertainment spectacles back then.
Yeah.
So we salute MTV Rock and Jock.
Yeah, especially if you want to kind of escape from all the recent news and such. You want something to kind of laugh and be entertained. I think Rock and Jock is the perfect, sort of entertainment for that. And like I said, you can do like a roller hockey kind of thing where it'll be a nice little alternative too. It says because most people can't ice skate very well. I know a lot of guys know how to, and gals know how to rollerblade. So you do kind of do something like that for the NHL All-Star game. But with that said, you can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you check out our podcast, Second City Sports, at WARR on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And you can follow WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at WARR Media. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We'd like to thank our guy Josh Hicks for WARR Media for joining us today, giving us his thoughts about the NBA Finals and his preview of Game 5 tonight. And congratulations to him once again for graduating from the University of DePaul. And make sure you check out Second City Sports live and in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as you young folks would say. Check out Second City Sports exclusively right here on Sports Zone Chicago every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time.
All right, folks. Now it's going to get hot here in the Midwest starting tomorrow. Yeah, so
a whole lot of fans and a whole lot of AC.
Yeah, and also a whole lot of cold drinks, especially water and
water, Gatorade,
vitamin water and Powerade and Gatorade. No soda. Like, keep the soda to a minimum because it's not
leave that alone.
Yes. Exactly. So, stay cool out there. If you're not going to get vaccinated, wash your hands, wear your mask, and be good to each other. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Go Sox. Holla!